What's going on, Salt Star Nation? Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about fishing points. Points are one of my favorite places to fish in the summertime because the water is a lot warmer and the cold current that continuously moves around points is more comfortable for fish to hold in. There's a lot of other reasons as well in terms of bait availability and ambush spots, but points are a fantastic place to fish in the summertime, and I'm going to be sharing with you guys 3 big keys you need to know when you're fishing points. So let's go ahead and dive in. My first tip for you today is to go with the flow. Now, I know that sounds silly, but as I mentioned earlier, fish are holding on points because of the way that current is moving around them. Now, those currents actually create conveyor belts of food for these predators. Essentially, what's happening is the bait fish or the crustaceans like shrimp are getting pulled with the current around a point in a very specific direction, and fish are going to hold in a very specific spot that's going to allow them the most opportunities to ambush food. Now, what I mean by that is as current comes around a point, as you're seeing here, essentially fish are going to hold in the calm spot right around where that current wraps the structure, whether it's an oyster bar or the point itself. So they're going to hold in a calm spot that they can ambush the bait. All you need to do is make your cast right to the area that the current is whipping around and just work your lure, whether it's a top water or a paddle tail or some other type of lure, around that point as if it was a bait fish, and you're going to have the most natural presentation, which can really pay off big time, especially with predators like trout and snook that like to hold in current. So my second tip for you is don't doubt the drop-offs. When you're looking at a point, it's not just the land that you're seeing that's above water that fish are holding behind. There's usually a gradual slope that occurs coming off of that point that fish are going to relate to. So you might have a point that's 15 yards away from you, and most people will only focus on the first 5 yards coming off of a point. But predators like trout and snook, flounder even for example, are going to hold a little bit further off where that slope is because it provides a very unique ambush point for them. Redfish sometimes will even hold at the very bottom of these cuts because they act almost as a funnel for the crabs and the shrimp that they like to forage for. So as you're seeing right now, I'm able to work way further away from the point than most people would like to fish because I understand that there is a gradual slope to it. Generally, you can see the ones that have slopes on satellite maps with a gradual color change rather than going from a very light color change to a very dark color change. That indicates a very sharp depth change that occurs quickly as opposed to a gradual color change on a satellite map that you'd see, again, would indicate a slope. Now, you want to give a little bit more attention to the ones that have slopes and be sure to pick those apart a little bit more than you would ones that have those very sharp depth changes, which again can also be extremely productive. And speaking of those points that have the very sharp depth changes, I like to fish those as quickly and efficiently as possible to find out whether there is fish there and whether I should continue to spend time there. So this leads into my third tip, which is the 3 cast pass. Now, what I mean by that is when I am working a point, I'm going to be casting to the left of the point, directly onto the point, and to the right of the point. This allows me to feel out the point in pretty much its entirety and understand whether there's going to be life there or not. When I decide I'm going to be fishing points, especially for trout, I like to hit those points as fast as possible because usually most of the trout are going to stack up on one point in a very specific area. Now, I don't want to spend a lot of time in a dead zone, so I'm not going to fish that area, like I said, for more than 3 casts. All you got to do is hit the left, the front, and the right at that point, and you can assess it pretty quickly. Now, moving through a lot of points very fast like that is going to help you find the most active areas. Granted, there are probably going to be some fish that you would be able to catch with more and more casts, but if you add up the time, it doesn't make sense to continue to work areas that could possibly have some life on them, or you could focus on the ones that have a lot, which you'll have cast after cast of tight lines. So it makes sense to do the 3 cast pass on almost any point that you're working, except the ones that have those gradual slopes. Generally, I'll give those 5 to 10 casts so I can accurately feel out each level of that slope. But like I said, the ones I give the 3 cast pass to are the ones that have the defined depth changes. That way I can feel everything out the way I need to and know whether there's fish there or not. So as I mentioned, I'm picking out these points before I even hit the water so I know which ones are going to be the most productive, which ones I spend a little more time at, and which ones I give the 3 cast pass to. So you need to make sure that you understand how to pick the best points in a given area. That way you can maximize your results and spend less time in dead zones not catching fish. And if you guys don't know how to pick the right spots and how to pick the right points on a satellite map, I highly recommend you join us in the Insider community where we have full courses on how to scout out proper fishing spots. We dive exactly into everything you need to know about pre-planning a good fishing trip where you'll be able to maximize your results. So I highly recommend you check us out there. So guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. There's something about the water
yourself or with your family. Live salt strong and wear the line today.